Hello there, time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are the Daily Mail's football editor, Ian Ladyman, and the Sun's chief football correspondent, Charlie Wyatt. Welcome to you both, gents. Let's run through the back pages. We'll start with the Mail. They react to the Champions League draw, calling it a gift for Arsenal. Are they on the so-called more favourable side of the draw after drawing against Bayer Leverkusen? We will discuss. Blast of the big spenders is the lead on the Express as Arne Slot defends reigning champions Liverpool's spending. And the Times focuses on Rugby Union's major league changes, which will see relegation scrapped from the Prem. OK, Charlie, Ian, really good to see you. Let's start then with Ian's paper, the Daily Mail, and that reaction to the Champions League draw. It's a gift for the Gunners. Back page of the Daily Mail says. Ian, is this, I suppose, because of drawing Bayer Leverkusen and them being on the so-called easier side of the draw?
Yeah, absolutely. If we were to get through that tie, then we'd end up playing either Sporting or Bodo Glimt. Now, we know that Bodo certainly haven't been a pushover for anybody, but you'd certainly be you'd prefer to be lining up against teams like that than you would Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich and the rest. Although I'm not that keen to sit here and disagree with my own newspaper's back page headline, but I'm not sure it is a gift because I think Arsenal have earned it. They were the best team in the league stage of the Champions League, and on the back of that, they've come in with a route to the semi-final that looks palatable, and that's exactly the way it should be. I mean, the league is there for a reason. If you come at top of the league or second in that league, you should get a reward at the next stage. Liverpool didn't get it last year. They were very unfortunate. They ended up with PSG, but that was a bit of an anomaly. Arsenal have avoided any such confusion or complication this time round, and that is a route to the semi-final that Mikel Arteta's team absolutely deserve to have.
Yeah, and Arteta agrees with you. He says that they did deserve their so-called easy run to the final because, Charlie, we saw them, didn't we, win 8 from 8, top the league phase, and it means, because of that, they'll avoid one of the traditional European heavyweights until at least the semi-finals. But you want to see Arsenal playing the best teams, don't you, throughout the tournament?
I think fans of Leverkusen might have something to say about that.
Yeah,
there's a decent team. They won the league a couple of years ago. They're not going to be easy. They've got some good players. Of course, Jarell Quansah will be looking to impress for Leverkusen. He's been doing quite well over there, actually. But of course, you're going to expect Arsenal to win that. And they deserve to finish top. They actually had some quite difficult group games as well. Yeah, and they took apart Inter Milan. They took apart Atletico Madrid. Funnily enough, they actually played sort of better football in the Champions League, where teams have come at them, than actually in the Premier League. So yeah, they deserve to be top, and I think they're going to go through. And it could be an incredible season. Let's not forget they did quite well in the Champions League last year as well, and didn't have quite enough to get past from PSG. So that experience will definitely help them. They've definitely got a better squad. They're obviously in a much better situation in the Premier League, and of course they've got a Carabao Cup final coming up next month as well, and they're through to the 5th round of the FA Cup where they're away to Mansfield. So it's a big test for Arsenal, but they're in a brilliant position.
They really are. Don't mention the Q word. Fans don't want to hear it, so I won't. OK, let's go to the back page of The Sun. Pep's Real headache is the headline, and this comes as City are drawn once again against Real Madrid. My goodness me, it's the 5th time in a row that City will have played Real Madrid in the knockout stages of the Champions League. Ian, this is going to be a tough tie for City and Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, they've already played them in the Champions League this season as well. I was there in Madrid at the start of December, I think it was, when City actually played really poorly in the first half and went behind. Real could only score once, and then Real fell apart a little bit. City scored 2 goals and ended up with a 2-1 win. And what was interesting was that in the press conference after that game at the Bernabeu, Pep Guardiola talked about how his team had to get much, much better, had to get smarter, had to get cleverer, and had a lot of work to do if they were to be good enough to go deep into the Champions League this season. Well, here we are, almost 3 months on. Have City made the necessary improvements to go deep in this competition? I don't know if they have. It's not necessarily criticism. It's a new team. It's a new team with some younger players, some players who are still finding their feet. I do think this season, if City are going to push Arsenal in the Premier League, and I expect them to, I think it may well be at the expense of the Champions League. And I'm not sure, not saying that they can't find a way past Madrid, but I'm not sure that City will go that deep this time into this competition.
Yeah, that's not what City fans will want to hear. But of course, Real Madrid, just that team that just know how to win in Europe, don't they? 15 times Champions League winners, Charlie. How tough will this be for Pep? Going against a team that he knows so well, but sometimes a team that gets the better of him.
Yeah, look, I agree with Ian. You know, they could beat Real Madrid, but whether they're going to go that far into the tournament, I'm not so sure. Yeah, look, Real Madrid, they're not having a brilliant season, are they? You know, they lost the manager. There's been issues behind the scenes. You know, the fans have been, turning on a few of the players, including Jude Bellingham. Top players like Bellingham have been suffering with injuries and loss of form. So, there's absolutely no reason why City cannot, beat Real Madrid. But, it's another fascinating game. And my only issue with this, I still can't make up my mind about the Champions League sort of format now, because in many respects I do like it. And I like the fact that Arsenal have been rewarded by finishing top. I like the fact that all their second games now will be at home. But I don't like the fact that we're starting to see quite a few repeat fixtures, aren't we? And we're going to see it in the Champions League, and we're also seeing it in some of the other European competitions as well. And that is a bit of a disappointment. I suppose it's unavoidable, but it's not ideal.
Going a bit further into this Champions League draw, Chelsea will play the holders, PSG, another tough matchup for a Premier League side. And of course, these two met in the final of the FIFA Club World Cup, didn't they, Ian? So what are we expecting here? Because again, teams that know each other very well and having very differing seasons.
Yeah, I think Chelsea are at home second in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think in that tie, and that is huge. That is big. As Charlie just mentioned that a minute ago, that is big. It'll be big for Arsenal. It'll be big for Chelsea. It does help. Look, I'm not. For anyone who's seen me on this programme before, or read anything I've written, I'm not a huge fan of Chelsea, the modern Chelsea. They confuse me a little bit. They confuse me in terms of lack of identity and lack of consistency in terms of not just the team selection, but whichever managers in the dugout from one season to the next. But what they are capable of are bespoke performances, big performances. They showed that in the summer when they fully deserved to beat PSG in the final of the Club World Cup. Can they do that over two legs? It's a big ask, but I think with the second one being at home, I think that is a huge opportunity for them. It's really difficult to call. PSG are very unpredictable in this competition. We know that. I would fancy them over the two legs, but I would say it'd be very tight. Chelsea do have opportunity, I have to say.
OK, staying with football and reaction to Villa and a massive win for Wolves at Molineux against Villa, who, of course, trying to consolidate their place in the Champions League positions, but it's Wolves who come out 2-0 winners, just their second win of this Premier League season. Back page of the Daily Express, on the right-hand sidebar, it's all go as Wolves stun Villa. Charlie, how big of a win is this for Wolves, and how much does it dent Villa's hopes of qualifying for the Champions League?
Well, it's actually a huge win for Wolves, because it now means they're not going to take an unwanted place in history. They're not going to be, the worst ever team, the team with the lowest points tally. That's still Derby with 11. I was at Molineux last week when they forced us all into a very hasty rewrite in injury time when they scored against Arsenal, and they've done all right. The results haven't all been there, but the performances, and of course they were really unlucky at the Emirates as well. So it was a deserved win really. In that they stuck with it. Villa should have equalised at the end before they went down the other end and got the second. But it seemed like a really good atmosphere at Molineux. It's obviously been a really tough season. But they've stuck with the team, and ultimately they're not going to stay up. But they're going to get relegated, but at least there's some positivity. Because if they play like that, they stick with the manager and they get it right, they'll be bouncing straight back up.
Yeah, a couple of the other papers have made mention of Wolves' win as well. Back page of the Mirror, Wolves stun Villa, with a picture there on the top bar at the top of the page there. And Ian, when you look at Villa's next couple of games in the Premier League, they're playing Chelsea and they're playing United, two teams trying to chase them down in the top 4 qualification places. This was a really damning defeat then, wasn't it, for Villa?
Yeah, Villa are absolutely trending backwards at the moment. I think that's 5 points from the last 5 Premier League games. They failed to beat Wolves. They've failed to beat Leeds. They've failed to beat Brentford, and I think also Bournemouth. It's been the worst part of their season so far, and it's given real hope, particularly to Manchester United. If Manchester United beat Crystal Palace at Old Trafford on Sunday, they will go ahead of Villa on goal difference. And I cannot overestimate how important it is for Manchester United at the moment not to have any other football to play apart from in the Premier League. No European football, no FA Cup, no Carabao Cup, obviously. And they will play Villa at home in a couple of weeks, 3 days after Villa have been away at Lille in Europe. I think that's going to be massive. And the longer this season goes on, the more Manchester United's destiny begins to lie in their own hands in terms of Champions League qualification. We would not have been saying that when they sacked Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, and Charlie, as Ian just said there, they're trending in the wrong direction, Villa. They've really been struggling for goals as well, haven't they? 5 goals now in their last 8 Premier League games. Could that be their downfall at this pivotal stage of the season?
But it'd be a real shame because they put themselves in a great position. But yeah, the goal's not been there. I think the supporters are starting to get frustrated with Unai Emery over his decision to keep sticking with Ollie Watkins. But even tonight, you've got Morgan Rogers, you've got Jadon Sancho, you've got Emi Buendia. They're 3 great attacking midfielders, but they were offering absolutely nothing. And of course, this result tonight not only gives Manchester United hope, but I think United are going to finish in the top 4. But of course, Liverpool and Chelsea, if Villa aren't careful, they're going to end up finishing 6th. And that would be a shame because they've been so good for so much of the season. But maybe those games in Europe, again, like we've seen so often, are starting to affect the performances. And Unai Emery, at the moment, he's not been getting the best out of that team. I think that's obvious. Yeah,
not been getting the best out of the team, or the best out of Ollie Watkins. Ian, was you surprised to see Ollie Watkins given the start over Tammy Abraham? Watkins just 1 goal in 11 games now.
Possibly. I mean, I thought Abraham was an interesting signing in January. And when I say interesting, I probably really mean not that impressive. I'm not sure he's quite of that level. Tammy's he's had opportunities before in the Premier League, as we know. I'm not sure if he was going to be the one who was going to take them to that next level. He may well prove me wrong. Ollie is not prolific. He's a talented striker, Ollie Watkins. We've seen what he has done for England. Charlie and I were both there in Dortmund, I think, when he scored that goal against Holland in the Euros a couple of summers ago. He can do it in the moment. Can he do it consistently? Not particularly. It's a problem. It's a problem for Villa. It really is.
OK, let's go to the back page of your paper now, Ian. I'll stay with you for this one. And the Daily Mail have splashed with a picture of the England cricket. Harry Brook scoops to conquer, but how many tries till he cracked it? This comes after a really tenacious performance from the England team, beating New Zealand. We already knew that they were through to the semi-finals, the T20 World Cup. We now know that they will top their group. They will be the top seed in the semi-finals. And Ian, they looked out of this against New Zealand, but their quality really shone through at the end. After what's been a really slow start to the tournament, finally, it looks like they're picking up some momentum.
Yeah, it was a proper baseball performance. That was by 2 players who Brendan McCullum has had a lot of faith in for a long time. Will Jackson, Rahim Ahmed. I think I just mentioned there about the Euros from a couple of summers ago with football, and Charlie and I have been to enough of these tournaments to know that momentum is really important in big tournaments. And England seem to be gathering a little bit of that at the moment in the T20 World Cup. He started very poorly, as we know, struggled against Nepal and Italy and Scotland, but they are starting to get going. They're starting to get going. They're building momentum. A couple of backs to the wall 4 wins, which will give them some confidence. Teams always take confidence from winning when not playing particularly well. However, it will go up a notch now. It will go up a notch in the semi-finals. It could be India, it could be the West Indies, it could be South Africa. That is the next level in this tournament. I do wonder whether England have been quite good enough so far to go into one of those games into that game as favourites, but they are there. They're scoring some runs and they are getting themselves out of holes. And in T20 cricket, that is a vital quality to have.
Yeah, you well question whether England have been good enough. Has Joss Buttler been good enough? Out for a duck against New Zealand in this tournament, and he has not been playing well. He's struggling. He looks like he's lacking in confidence. But a player, Ian, of his experience and his stature, does that make him undroppable even despite his current form?
No, I don't think anybody should be, but it's really difficult. Another football analogy. I remember Arne Slot being asked about Mo Salah early in the season when he wasn't playing well. It was a game at Burnley actually. He said, "Would you ever take Mo Salah off?" And Slot was like, "Well, he's just scored me a penalty in the last minute. If I take him off, he wouldn't have been there to do it." So it just shows that coaches are always unwilling to take players out of a team that they know can produce big performances. Josh Butler can produce big performances. We know that. He is droppable. I don't think he should be dropped because he's Josh Butler.
Yes, and has already won 2 World Cups. OK, Ian, Charlie, we'll leave it there for the moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be looking at more of the sports stories in the morning's papers, including this in the Telegraph. Rugby kicks out old farts. We'll discuss one of the biggest changes in rugby union's history next. Hello again, you're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to the Daily Mail's football editor, Ian Ladyman, and the Sun's chief football correspondent, Charlie Wyatt. Let's go to Rugby Union now and that landmark agreement to scrap promotion and relegation to and from the Prem. In the Times, they've gone with the headline, Green Light for Prem's franchise era. Biggest change to rugby in England for 40 years. Promotion and relegation scrapped. Expanded 12-club league in 2029. Ian, this is a major overhaul of England rugby. Well, essentially seeing the Prem detached from the rest of the rugby pyramid in this franchise-style model that you might be more akin to seeing over in America. It's been strongly backed by numerous stakeholders, but do you feel this is what English rugby needs?
Yeah, it is an American concept, as you say, and worth pointing out there's quite a few owners of English Premier League football clubs who quite like to see the Premier League go this way. Also, I don't think it ever will, thankfully. Look, this goes against my instincts of what sport is about. Obviously, fair competition, fair chance for all, promotion, relegation. It doesn't sit well with me. Having said that, I understand why sports look at it. Rugby League have already done it, by the way. They're operating on that system this year for the first time. And the reasons that the union are doing it are clear. You have to make your product in these changing times of the way that people view sport and watch sport and consume sport. You have to make your product as attractive as possible, not only to people who you want to come through the turnstiles, but more importantly, people who want to watch on the television, TV companies who want to pay for it, and advertisers who want to stick their name on the back of your sport. And if you have big name clubs, big facilities, clubs judged on facilities and reputation and fan base and the way they work the media, what that does is it does arguably, whether it brings up the quality or fairness of your product, I'm not sure, but it makes your product look a little bit more shiny to the people who you want to pay to watch it. And that is what this is about. I guess it's about trying to secure the future of the sport. Yeah,
Charlie, we talk about the future of the sport and whether it is sustainable, I guess, because we've seen teams like Wasps, London Irish, Worcester all going bust in recent years. So how much will this revamp help that aspect of the sport become more sustainable going forward?
It absolutely has to. And that's why, it might seem uncomfortable for many people. And I agree with Ian, as soon as you hear the word franchise, the alarm bells ring. Of course, in English football, it was a situation where you had to get re-elected and elected into the EFL until 1986. So that was almost a closed shop. But I think it needs to happen. As you say, Saracens, Wasps, London Irish, they all went 3 years ago. And equally, you've got a situation where the teams in the Championship, for example, Ealing, that are really strong and they're going to win again, they only get 1,200-1,300 people. They're not getting, the setup's not there, the stadium's not there. And I think rugby needs to expand. It needs to look at areas like, Cornwall, Yorkshire, East Anglia as well. Those franchises, the obvious one in East Anglia would be Cambridge. And, they've got to really, spread across the country. At the moment, rugby union, more than ever is really sort of, it's London and the South, and that is no good for the sport. I know there's a few exceptions, so it needs a really big change, and I think this is probably it. And the interesting thing is that the Championship clubs that have so long been against this, I think, realise now they've got no other choice. They have to do this to save rugby union.
Yeah, massive changes coming in from next season. OK, let's go back to the back page then of the Daily Express. They splashed with Arne Slot and the headline, Blast of the Big Spenders. This is Arne Slot defending Liverpool's spending, insisting that he's not been able to properly utilise many of the players who cost a combined £450 million. That figure keeps getting sprung about, Ian, and almost thrown at Slot as a kind of accusation. Has he made the most of the players and the talent that he's got available to him?
This is a theme that Arne has been kind of following for 2-3 weeks. I was in the press conference about a month ago when he was saying pretty much a similar thing about stop saying that I've spent 450, because when you look at the players that I've sold, we've actually only spent 250. All managers do it. No managers like to be accused of buying their way to success, and certainly no manager likes to be accused of buying their way to 5th or 6th place in the Premier League, as Arne is at the moment. Has he made the most of his players? Well, no, but then he will argue that he hasn't had a good number of them, and he's absolutely right. He hasn't had Frimpong, has he? He hasn't had Alexander Isak, and there have been others who haven't played well. Kirkez has taken 6 months to settle in. Wirtz took time to settle in. Ekitike was the one who looked like a Liverpool player right from the start. And at the end of the day, it's not about net spend. It's about who you buy. That's what it's about. It's about who you buy and what they do once you've bought them. And at the moment, Liverpool, and I've said this for a while, I still think they will. I think they've bought some very good players. You can't say that Ekitike, Wirtz, Isak are not good players, and they're young players. Okay, so I still think they've invested in a future there. However, there's no point standing there saying I haven't spent this. The net spend is this. The fact is, you spent that money on those players. Those players haven't quite done it yet.
Okay, Ian, thank you. We're going to have to leave it there. Ian Ladyman and Charlie White, thank you for your company on Back Pages. If you missed any of the show, another chance to see it at hour as always, and it's available as a podcast from wherever you get your podcasts from. Stay with us here on Sky Sports News. Reaction to bottom side Wolves stunning Aston Villa on the Friday night football with a 2-0 win at Molineux.